Hey there guys, welcome back. Today's going to be part 5 in the Sunken greenhouse project, and the theme of today is going to be ventilation. So a little bit different than the last couple of videos you saw in this greenhouse where a lot of physical changes were made or aesthetic changes, like the framing and the panels and the steps and the retaining wall. This video is not going to have as many physical changes, but the changes or the projects that I've completed are more function based. So with ventilation being the theme, there were 2 main projects that I worked on, and one of them you can see right there is a little ventilation door. It's a little wind flap that is adjustable to help direct wind through that little gable window and on through the structure to help cool it. And then the other one is that little square box that you see at the far end of the ridge, and that is a solar ventilation fan. So let me grab the camera. I'll talk about those in a little more in depth, kind of give you a closer look, and then after that I will talk about, like the other videos, the things I have yet to complete. So the biggest project I wanted to complete in this stage of the greenhouse was to come up with some form of automated way for the greenhouse to vent itself, where I didn't have to open any doors or windows and it would just do it on its own. I looked at various commercial solar greenhouse fan kits, and most of them are way above what I could afford. And I did look at those little hinged louver windows that the hinge is heat activated, but I didn't want to have a bunch of extra flaps on top of the greenhouse, just for fear of them getting ripped off by the wind. So basically what I came up with is I started looking at solar attic fans, and this is what I found. This is a fan from Remington Solar. You can find them, I think, on Amazon, as well as Home Depot, and if you look, they've got pretty good reviews. I think they have a lifetime warranty. But basically this is just a house attic fan, and it has a solar panel built into the top of it, and it did come in black, but I just painted the outside color just to kind of keep with the theme of the greenhouse and make it blend in a little bit. But basically what this has is a little temperature sensor in it that turns on the fan, I believe at like 80 or 85 degrees, and it starts venting the greenhouse on its own. So basically after all the reviews I read, I decided this might be a good fit and an easy install. I just built some extra brackets, and I'll show you how I installed it in just a sec. But basically it was probably about a 45-minute install, including cutting the panels and the opening and everything. That's not including the paint. That probably took another hour of painting and waiting for it to dry. So anyway, let me show you how I put it on, and then I'll show you kind of how it looks from the underside and how it runs. And then after that, I will show you my little wind diverter door, and then I'll show you some tests I did with both the wind diverter door and the solar greenhouse fan, or solar actuated fan, to show you how well it vents the greenhouse. The next project I wanted to complete after the solar ventilation fan was this wind diverter or wind diversion door, whatever you want to call it. And essentially what this was is a concept in my mind that if I built some sort of adjustable flap, I could capture the winds during the warm times of the year, like our fall and our spring, and divert them through the greenhouse for extra ventilation. Obviously it doesn't work if there's no wind, but if there is wind, it can just provide that a little extra ventilation that maybe the plants will need. So basically what I did is I built this all with scrap materials and a scrap section of the Tuftex panel, and then used some conduit to make some stops here in the ground. I actually concreted these in, and this just simply slides up for whatever direction the wind is going, and it holds it pretty secure. So if the wind's coming more from here, I would probably have it, out here. And then if it's coming almost directly from the south, I can put it right there. And then if we are going to get really bad winds, or it's wintertime or something like that, I can simply just lock it against the side of the greenhouse. After installing both the solar ventilation fan and the wind diversion door, I wanted to test things out and see if they actually were going to work. So I went ahead and closed up all the ventilation openings and covered up the solar panel on the vent fan, and then let it sit for about an hour and a half to see what the temperature was going to be if the greenhouse was completely sealed up. So here's what the temperature looks like in an hour and a half of being sealed up. The top number is the thermostat that is inside the greenhouse, and the bottom number is the thermostat that is inside the little display unit. You can see it's just about 5 minutes before 12, and I'm going to go ahead and take off all of the things that are sealing the openings and let the greenhouse kind of do its work and vent through that end window, the door, and the solar ventilation fan. So after the greenhouse had some time to vent, you'll see that the temperature inside the greenhouse came down quite a bit, from 124 to 110. Definitely not great growing weather for plants, but it does prove that the ventilation additions have been effective. And on a side note, if you're wondering why the bottom temperature reading was so much higher during the test, that was just from direct sunlight exposure, and generally these thermostats are supposed to be kept in a shaded area. Okay, so you've just seen the two biggest ventilation additions I've made to the greenhouse, and they probably won't be the last additions, but those are just the ones that I got right now. I probably will maybe add two other little doors, like smaller gabled doors or windows that I can open on either side to allow more airflow. But so far, so good. It's working, and I'm pretty happy with it. One of the other things I didn't show you, or I didn't mention in the beginning, was I added a door handle to the door and a little rudimentary latch. It's not the prettiest thing, but I'll show some clips right now. Basically, it was just a piece of ipe that I embedded a toggle bolt in, and then I just got some scrap metal and made a little cantilever or a little lever latch that can hold the door open or hold the door closed. So after that, I will go on to the things that I plan on doing in the future. As I've mentioned several times before, one of the big projects I wanted to accomplish is this little hole right here, which will eventually be a cooling tunnel. I haven't had the motivation to dig the little trench to put some pipe or something in there for this cooling tunnel to work. But if this is the first video you have seen, essentially I'm just going to dig a trench from that hole right there, probably about 75 to 100 feet down the hillside, and then I'm going to build a little kind of an opened up area that can funnel some wind through the tunnel, and hopefully that'll be some like geothermal cooled air. Other than that, I did do some final grading. So I basically graded the sides away from the greenhouse a little bit, and I adjusted that little pile of, or that big pile of dirt when I dug the greenhouse out. It's not completely finished yet, but I'll show you some clips right now of just what that looks like. Essentially, it's just graded where all the dirt slopes away from the greenhouse to keep any rain off from pooling up near the greenhouse. Other than that, the last thing I will probably do as part of this greenhouse section, or last major project, will be a rainwater harvesting system. I'm still trying to figure out some gutters to go along the sides, and then some way to pipe those gutters to some like holding tanks that are still above the main level of the growing space, and then I will ultimately pipe that back into the greenhouse to where I can water plants with it. Not exactly sure how that's going to go, but I guess you'll see it in the next part. So I think that's it, guys. As always, thanks for watching. I hope this was beneficial, maybe gave you some ideas if you are considering a similar project. And to be honest, it's a little bit muggy in here. That's why I took off my hat. It was almost completely saturated. So as always, thanks for watching. Click the subscribe button, and I will see you next time.